Auschwitz is inspired by the incredible true story of Freddie Hirsch. He's a German Jew who risked his life daily during the Holocaust to persuade senior Nazis to let him establish children's homes in a Czech ghetto and then in Auschwitz-Birkenau, where he created a dedicated children's block. This is amazing stuff, and author Wendy Holden joins me now to talk more about it. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. How did you come across this? You know, like I said, just reading up before I came here, I'm like, how does this land in your lap?
It was luck. It was really good luck. I was working on a previous memoir of a Holocaust survivor, and it was very harrowing. She was telling me terrible things that had happened to her, but when she spoke about Freddie Hirsch, it was as if a light went on inside her. And I realized to my shock that she had experienced some of the happiest days of her life, and they happened to be in Auschwitz because of this young man who was incredibly brave and refused to be a bystander to hate.
Wow. And he was giving light to so many people, so that's incredible that you would say that. What did Freddie do? If you can explain a little bit more about the children's block, what did he do for so many of these young people?
Well, he'd been a youth leader before the war, and in Germany, and then he fled to Czechoslovakia, and then he ended up in a ghetto, and finally in Auschwitz-Birkenau. And in every single place, he was very clever. He manipulated the Nazis to allow him to take the children out of the process, because obviously they were in the way, they were a nuisance, and the Nazis loved order and discipline. So he said, let me have them in a special block. I'll look after them, I'll take their numbers, I'll feed them, I'll take care of them, they'll be out of your hair, and let me do that. And they said, okay. And of course, once he had that privilege, he kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And by the end of it, he had the walls painted with Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. He had little shows and plays that he put on. He taught them games, he taught them music. He had teachers come in and teach them by storytelling because there were no books. And it was all in the shadow of the smokestacks. He created a little piece of heaven and hell.
These are the stories that we need to hear more of, little pieces of hidden history. Really, why was he then denigrated and really for so many forgotten after the war?
Yes, well, the communists took over that part of the world, and they were homophobic. He was gay, and he had collaborated with the Nazis on a daily basis, obviously for the sake of the children.
Yeah.
But they turned that back on him, and so for 80 years he was largely forgotten. There's really been very little written about him, and this book opens with "My name is Freddie Hirsch. Please be so kind as to remember my name."
Yeah, everyone wants to be remembered.
Yes.
Yeah. The last survivor. This is another piece here that just kind of blew me away. The last survivor of that children's block actually had the opportunity to read your book. So I definitely want to know about the feedback that you got from someone who was personally impacted by this.
Well, as you can imagine, Anita, I was terrified because I didn't even know if anybody was still alive, and I thought, my goodness me, if she hates it, what am I going to do now?
Right.
But she read it very quickly. Her name is Dita Kraus, and she lives in
Just a picture?
the country. Yes. And she was amazing. And she read the book, and she said that it was the closest possible narrative anybody could have written who didn't experience the whole thing themselves. And like Susanna, whose photograph is up on the screen now, she was the lady that told me about Freddie in the first place. Again, she was so fond of Freddie, she just kept saying, thank goodness somebody's finally written about him. Finally he's come to promotion.
What an astounding honor, really, to hear that from someone.
It's such a privilege to write these stories. I've written several books with survivors, and sadly very few of them are still with us. But it is such an honor and such a privilege to have been able to do that and tell their stories and to give them a legacy.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you're going to be telling a little bit more in more detail for folks in Skokie tomorrow night, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. 6:30 at Holocaust Museum. I'm in conversation with Dr. Jake Newsom, who's a very eminent historian, and I'm looking forward to talking more about Freddie Hirsch.
I know people are going to want to hear more because I was just like, how? What? Well, you know, just I wanted more. And so I'm so glad that I had the opportunity to sit down with you today.
Yes, so too. Thank you.
9:37, everybody. Remember, the information on your screen. Be there if you can after this.